All right, we are back. All right, another week of the Steelers chat, and I have my favorite Alex Kozora is here again from the Steelers Depot. How you doing?
Hey D, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me back on.
Yeah. Have you recovered from Sunday?
Nope, nope,
No. All
not even
right.
a little bit. And we're getting ready for Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday is really around the corner. The guys they did not practice on Monday. They practiced today, and our injury report looks good.
It's the one thing that looks good right now.
Yeah.
Devin Bush fully participating with that foot injury, so this team looks a lot healthier than Cleveland going into a short week, which is one silver lining.
How bad is it when the first compliment is our injury report looks good?
You take what you can get.
Yeah. So to start with that, we know you like to give grades. What would you give this team's grade overall, offense, defense, and special teams this week, after week two's performance?
So one grade for the whole team. Is that what
Oh,
you're
whole
asking?
team,
Oh
yeah.
man, I'm not really sure to be honest because it feels like they're so separated, so segmented based on the offensive grade. It's so much different than the defensive grades, and individually, you can really go down that rabbit hole. Maybe a C plus overall. I mean, it's about in line with what we expected. No one should be surprised this offense is struggling. That was the expectation. No one should be surprised this defense has played reasonably well. I think they played pretty good. Maybe not quite elite level type play, but really good in week one, and had their moments in week two. Again, they really
Yeah.
held a potent Bengals offense in check, and they held the Patriots to 17 points overall. That should be enough to get you out of stadiums with victory. So special
Yeah.
teams, Boz has been good. Harvin's looked encouraging and is progressing nicely, but you had the Olszewski muff punt, and so it's really hard to give one singular grade. I think generally speaking, things are about as expected.
Okay. So I want to talk about the D line. Cam Hayward, we know him to be that facilitator of that line, telling guys where to go and what to do before that ball snaps. What did you see differently from week 1 to 2 with just the line itself?
Well, I think Hayward certainly had a tough matchup against Cole Strange. In week one, he dominated a rookie Cordell Volson, and you thought going into week two, maybe Hayward can do the same against Strange. To his credit, I mean, he really held his own. Rarely do you see
Mm,
Hayward as locked up and not getting pressure on his bull rush as often. And it wasn't even just that the Patriots were sliding protection to Hayward's way all that often. It was a lot of one-on-one opportunities that Strange was winning. He was a pretty much a relative unknown kind of guy. Thought he'd be a day two pick. Patriots take him at the end of first round out of UT Chattanooga, and that was a surprise. But he certainly
yeah, it was
looks like
shocker. Everybody was like,
right,
wait, what? What are we
right. Who
doing?
is this guy? Yeah, he had a good Senior Bowl week, but no one thought he'd be in that day one conversation.
Yeah.
So again, whenever Watt's out, there's going to be more attention drawn to somebody like Hayward, and he had a tough matchup overall. The
Mhm.
D line is steep. They ran some of the 3-3-5. Actually, ran a lot of 3-3-5 in that game. Three down front to try to mitigate some of the lack of edge depth and lean on some of the depth they have up front. To Marvin Leal playing a lot of rush end, for example. So I thought late in the game they kind of wore down. That last drive obviously was a killer 13 play drive that runs the final 6.5 or so minutes off the clock. And there were some, I think, schematic issues as well with their overfront they were playing, and the Patriots countered that pretty well overall. So, I mean, again, they've held teams in check. They've kept the score down. They play to their blueprint. There's always some more to look for, and obviously, the lack of pressure, just generally speaking, was
Mhm.
troubling last week, and
Mhm.
they have to come
Yeah.
up with a game plan to improve that because Watt will be back, but not anytime soon, and they got to get better.
Yeah. And were you shocked to see Mark Robinson inactive this week?
I wasn't really. I'm a big Mark Robinson fan. I'm excited for his
Me
future and what
too.
he can do. But this is a guy that's a rookie and played 1 year linebacker in college, and it comes
Yeah.
down to a numbers game. They get a lot of special teams guys available to them, and there's only so many guys that you can dress. So frankly, I was not that surprised.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to get out there and show everybody what he can do. I was expecting, you know, a little bit more from the linebackers. I think Spillane had a good day. Miles Jack had the best day as far as tackles goes. Minka to me was quiet, even though he did have the interception there. So just to take it back to the secondary a little bit, because that was where my concern was going into the season. What do you see, and how do you see them, working together to improve? Even though, I mean, it's really, really hard. It's week two. It's not like they're getting a ton of points scored on them.
Right.
You got one-on-one with a kilo. So how are you feeling about the secondary?
I think they've been opportunistic. I mean, they've had, as a defense, what, 5 interceptions the first 2 weeks, and I
Yeah.
think four of those have come from the secondary. And so they really capitalize on some of the plays. They're playing a lot of zone. It's been a lot softer zone coverage than what maybe I was expecting or used to. And the one benefit, though, is you can read the field, you read the quarterback, you read route combinations, you can really break and make plays on the football. A lot of the picks they've had, both of Minka's interceptions have come off of cover, too. He's playing the deep half and just reading
Yeah,
the quarterback, and he covers so much ground.
and I just think that it's an intelligent defense. I'm not saying that, other teams are just not as smart, but I think these guys are like just true nerdy football players.
Definitely.
That's just the feel I get from those guys, and I think Tom and TA trust them out there a lot, which probably makes it fun for them to play together.
Yeah, and they're
Um,
experienced, and this isn't the
mhm,
same group as last year where there's more continuity, there's more talent, there's not been as many injuries and off-season losses. So I mean, again, I think Witherspoon has struggled the first 2 weeks. I think he's been late to some stuff. Obviously, got moshed really bad on the Aguilar touchdown that you referenced a moment ago. I thought the Chase touchdown that he gave up at the end of that fourth quarter, he's got outside leverage on that play. He can't allow the out route. He's got to force that one back inside. It's a tough spot to be in, but I think he's got to be able to finish these
I
plays a
mean,
bit better.
I can't even like that. That touchdown could have happened so many plays ago. They had unlimited shots in the end zone,
Right.
and by that time, I'm mentally and physically exhausted because I can only imagine what those guys are going through out there trying to figure out what play is going to happen next. So, like, look, in my mind, that touchdown should have happened about 4 plays earlier.
Right, sure. But the Bengals, I'm sure, were sitting there saying the same thing. Like, they had to be
Yeah.
mentally worn down and just saying, "What is going on?" So, I mean, it kind of works both ways. But Minka's been fantastic. Edmonds has played solid. I think he doesn't get enough credit.
Yes.
Edmonds' conditioning is just off the charts. This guy, he has not quite lived up to expectations as a former first round pick, but this guy never misses a snap, doesn't miss practice. His body fat's super low. He played 107 snaps in that first game, 100 on defense, 7 on special teams. He's doing jammer work, and in addition to playing strong safety, I think that gets overlooked, the availability, the
It does.
durability, and the conditioning that Evans brings.
Yeah, and I'm glad he was, to me, should have been an extremely easy resign. I don't know what took so long with him. And I think him and Minka work so well together. And I'm glad that, someone else is recognizing the hard work that he put in. He had a spectacular play this week that helped us out a lot, but just not enough. So I tried to spend as much time as I could on the defense.
And now we go to the offense.
And now we talk offense. Okay. If you had to say three things, or the most I'll give is three. Three reasons why the offense is performing the way that it is. To me, it doesn't look different. I'm not surprised, as you said
Mhm.
earlier. It doesn't look different than what we saw last year. There's nothing about it that says, "Oh my gosh, it's the worst I've ever seen. Oh my gosh, it's so different." It's very much the same. So for you, do you think this offense, is it the play calling? Is it the quarterback? I know these answers. I'm just asking because the people,
Right.
need help making these assessments. Is it the offensive line? What is it?
I mean, it's generally all the above when things are as bad as they are right now, when your offense is
Mhm.
averaging 15 points per game in 2022, when the Bills are hanging almost 50 burgers on a good Titans defense. And so generally, I try not to isolate it to just one thing. If I could say a couple
Can't
things
be.
about the
Yeah.
offensive struggles, I think first down offense continues to be poor. First, quarter, first drives have been relatively poor. They're averaging, I think, 4.3, 4.4 yards on first down. They were at
Mhm.
3.9 last year. Still really bad overall. I think there's been a mixture between a quarterback that's certainly making some mistakes. The thing with Trubisky is everyone's talking about lack of deep shots, lack middle of the field. Some of that's true, but I'm more worried about he's taken some bad sacks. I think 3 of the
Mhm.
4 sacks they've given up this year have been directly on him. He missed Claypool on an out route in the red zone last year or last week on 3rd and 4. Should have been at least a first down, maybe a touchdown. He takes a really bad sack there. Can't have that. I think he's missing stuff underneath in terms of those reads as well. And so that's to me more problematic than not airing the ball out 50
Yeah.
yards downfield. I think with Matt Canada, the offense is very structured. It's very rigid. It has the hallmarks of what he did in college because when you're coaching a 20-year-old sophomore in college, he's got to play within that structure. Not a lot of freedom, not a lot of ad lib opportunity because he's a young guy, and you're just trying to not play, not make mistakes. And that's kind of
Right.
been the way that I feel this offense is being maybe indirectly told. Don't make the mistake. Take the profit. Let's win on possession downs. Let's play field position. Rely on our good defense. We have a good kicker. Let's just get in range. That seems to be the overall mindset, similar to 2019. And there's some
Similar,
value
too
in
similar.
that, right? But there's more talent this year, and you got to score points here if you want to win. And this offense has just been way too flat.
Yeah, so, the offensive line isn't really controlling the line of scrimmage. Um, do you think that has to do with just talent? Is it scheme? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think the line's been better than what I thought it was. We talked a couple
Mhm.
times ago. We talked about how bad this offensive line was. It feels like no one's really talking about that right now. In terms of the pass protection, it's been, I think, reasonably good going against some good fronts in the Bengals and the Patriots. I think run blocking in week one was pretty poor. I thought it was better, in week two. I know Najee missed a couple of holes in that Patriots game. I think some of that's a bit overstated.
Yes.
It's just, yeah, it's just been, some
It's hard it's
occasional,
easy to see from, a sky view of this
right.
big wide hole, and I think he
Absolutely.
probably thought he could take the one guy in the middle, and he just probably that's the first thing he saw. But
Yeah,
anyway.
so it's still, a group that's trying to come together, and Harris has missed time with the foot injury, and that hasn't helped either. And the Patriots have a good run defense, so it's probably been a bit more combination of things there. But I've seen some progress going from really this whole offensive line from the summer until now. But even as a run blocking unit from week one, which was really poor, there really was no push to them getting more of a push off the ball in week two.
So how would you describe the middle of the field? It appears to be open for play, like, but it's not being used. So how would you describe, the use of the middle of the field?
Yeah, I know I get asked about that a lot, and that's tough to really answer in like a big broad term. It really depends on the play that you're talking about. There are
Mhm.
calls that are being, sent to that area of the field. They've been against maybe some poor coverages to do it against. They ran, these over concepts, these crossing routes a lot against cover one, and that's not a
And
great
then
throw to
Pat
make
Pat
against.
Freiermuth typically.
Right,
Yeah.
he had that
Mhm.
one
Mhm.
kinda hit off his face mask on third down. It was good coverage, tight throw, but a play that he normally makes. So, do I wanna see them be able to push the ball downfield more and use the whole real estate? Sure, I think I do, but I think it's something that's a bit overstated, and, sometimes it's there and the coverage doesn't allow it. The Patriots were playing a lot of zone, kinda forcing stuff underneath last week, so it's just hard to really give one answer to because it really depends on what play, what situation we're talking about.
Yeah, so and another thing that is just bothering me, I think, one, just being there and that energy and knowing that your team is not performing offensively how you imagine. The last thing I take pleasure in is calling for another quarterback's name. I personally, being in the stadium, didn't hear it, and it's probably because I didn't want to hear it. I was so focused on what was going on the field. How do you think that impacts any element of the game, hearing, another quarterback's name being chanted while the team's trying to drive?
Well, I think Trubisky heard it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It seemed to be the indication after the game. I don't think it really has an impact overall. It's not gonna sway Tomlin one iota, and Trubisky's a professional, and he's gonna do his
Yeah,
job, and so, I mean, that was to be expected. We knew the second that Trubisky faltered, these chants were going to happen. It's a tough spot to be in when
crazy.
you have the guy that's gonna replace you sitting on the bench right behind you. So, it's a tough spot, I'm sure, for Trubisky, but you just have to play better. If this team wins Thursday and they beat the Browns, they're 2-1, they're leading the North, like,
2
we're
and
all good.
1,
We're all
yeah.
happy. So, I mean, and
2
now if they
2
lose,
up
then
in the division, it's not, um, it's not a time to panic, and I don't
right.
wanna sound like I'm panicking, I'm not. It's just kinda you gotta go through the motions, and we're not always gonna play we're gonna have games where we win, and we're gonna still play bad, and we gotta
Sure.
talk about it.
Right.
There's no panic here. I don't want anyone else to panic. It is week 2. We went through a panic mode last year for some reason. I think we lost like 3 straight, and
Mhm.
everyone's calling for Ben. If Ben were on this offense today, it would be Ben's 2-0. Ben can't throw. It would be all of these things, but you're seeing the same thing that you saw last year when you were trying to, get that 30 plus, 40 plus. How old is Ben now? I don't know.
I think just turned 40, just had his
Yeah,
40th, I wanna
out
say.
out
Yeah.
of the league. So, the thing that is constant is still there. So,
Yeah, and
What
that's
do you think
frustrating.
of
Like, there
that?
are concerns with this offense, and there are long-term things to talk about. The offense is not gonna put up 40 points, I'm sure, Thursday night. Great if they do. I'd be happy to be wrong about that, but I doubt it.
Me
The
too.
the the pass rush is gonna be concerned. How do you generate a pass rush? Do you have to blitz more? How does that change your coverage structure? How does that change your overall approach to things? So, there are things to talk about, but it is, as you said, just 2 games into the year. They beat the Browns on Thursday. We're all happy again. So, just talk to both of us after Thursday, and we'll kinda see where things are at.
Yeah, and it's still not enough. The guys are still gelling. The offensive weapons are so good, and I don't even know if I want you to just like exploit them all right now. Anyway, that's just
Well, I
my
do. I mean,
personal
I
opinion.
I want to exploit them every single week. I think the skill guys, I think they have to be in more situations to win. I think Deontay, he's averaging, I think, 8 yards a catch, and he's got to do. It's got to be more than that. That's not on him. That's just on the structure of the offense. George
Yeah.
Pickens, this guy's making so many plays. Throw him a jump ball. Allow him
I
to
mean,
win and
yeah,
play
he
big.
he has this much space to
Yeah,
catch and get his feet down after a catch. I mean, they're pretty much throwing him out of bounds every time they're sending the ball his way. So, how is he going to get the yak, as they say, in those types of situations? So the play calling has to improve to get these guys some opportunities to run down the field after the catch.
sure.
So I definitely agree with what you're saying there. And the run game. I am still impressed with Jalen Warren. I mean, that move where he like lowered his shoulder on the guy, I can't remember the exact defender, but I was just so impressed. The little bit of the small amount of snaps that I saw him carry. How are you feeling about Jalen and his role on this team?
Yeah, I think he's done well. I think he's been the same guy that I watched in Latrobe. Super competitive,
Hmm.
super fearless, big old chip on his shoulder, as he should be. I mean, he went from JUCO to Utah State to Oklahoma State undrafted free agent. This guy had a journey to come to Pittsburgh, but I think he's done a good job. Again, his conditioning's been fantastic too for a rookie. I mean, he was available every day, working hard. Dude
Yep.
finished every single rep in training camp. He runs hard on special teams, covering kicks right now. And he's been able to give Harris a bit of a breather, which is important for his
Yeah.
health and just you don't want this guy playing 90% of the snaps every single time and wear him down to a nub. So, I mean, I'm confident in Najee. I know he's gotten a lot of criticism lately over those couple of bad reads, and they were a couple of bad reads, but it's just that. He's going to bounce back. He's fine as long as he's healthy, and he looked pretty healthy to me. I mean, this dude's stiff arming people and hurdling people. That foot looks good. So Warren's been solid, but Harris is still that dude.
Yeah, he's still the number one back. And I don't know who will know if you ever know if his injury is significant or insignificant or not. Bottom line, he's out there, so they believe, and he believes that he's healthy enough to go, and we'll stick to that. I'm cool with going forward with that. This matchup with the Browns, I personally have said the first to 21 points is probably the person that's going to win
Probably.
the game.
Yep.
It's like a game of 21 in football. How are you assessing this matchup?
Yeah, it's going to come down to the trenches, I think. How well does Pittsburgh get their run game going? How well do they stop the Browns' run offense? Because they got two really good backs in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, a good offensive line, and Wyatt Teller, Joel Batonio. I know he's dealing with a bicep injury, but I'm betting he's going to play. This guy's not missed a game since 2016, so I like his
Oh,
odds to
wow.
suit up for this one. How well do you defend that wide zone that Cleveland likes to run? I mean, Pittsburgh, as bad as Pittsburgh's run defense was last year, they had two pretty good games against the Browns, oddly enough. And so they know
Yeah.
these guys well. How well do you fit the run and pursue the ball carrier and things like that? That's going to be important because the Browns want to run the football. They have run the ball effectively. They're over 200 yards a game through 2 weeks. They lead the NFL in total rushing yards. So that'll probably be the biggest thing is just trying to stop the run.
Yeah, we didn't do the best job last week. Did a pretty decent job with Joe Mixon the week prior. Of course, the run game is where I'm worried, and not having that threat of TJ Watt definitely helps calm a QB's mind and make them feel a little bit more comfortable standing in that pocket. Who do you think out of the linebackers is going to bring the pressure? We didn't see 0 sacks last week, so who do you think is going to be the guy this week?
It's probably a combination of guys. I don't know if it's one guy in particular. Alex
Right.
Highsmith against Jedrick Wills on that left side of the Browns line will be a big matchup to watch. Highsmith has always had success against Wills, has really dusted him with inside spins and good counters, and so he'll have to
This
bring that
Alex
again.
spin game is not a joke
Right?
this year. I
Oh, it's
love
so good, yeah.
it.
So that's gonna be important, but other guys will have to step up. It probably will be more than just one guy. It'll be Malik Reed and it'll be, whether they have the Marvin Leal rush the passer a bit more and somebody else manufacturing pressure. The call they had on Minka's pick where Highsmith got free was one of the most brilliant play calls I've ever seen. The way they built off the pressure they had last week or 2 weeks ago against the Bengals, and they kind of do similar but bluff things against the Patriots. Really, really good. So it'll be leaning on scheme a bit more than just rushing four and letting TJ Watt do his thing. And so it really comes down to probably more on the coaches than a player to manufacture some of that pressure.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a score prediction? I haven't given mine yet. Like I said, the first to 21. If anyone gets close to 21, the closest, of course, to 21 will win that one. Do you have a score prediction?
I don't. I honestly do not have one. I have not. I've been going through this Patriots game so much, and I'm the kiss of death. I'm 0 for 2 picking games this year. I picked the Bengals to beat Pittsburgh in week 1, and then I picked Pittsburgh to beat the Patriots last week. So do the opposite of what I say. I should probably pick the Browns just to make everyone happy.
Right. I like honestly to be honest with you, I am 0-2. I got the score right of the last game.
Okay.
But yeah, I almost got the score right in the first game. But that's funny, but it was the opposite way, of course. So yeah, I'm with you. It's really hard. Um and Miles Garrett, I'm assuming he's gonna play, so he's gonna be a disruptor. Um if I'm a quarterback, I'm gonna be bothered with the fact that he's out there. And but with all the chatter coming in from Sunday, look, 21 is the goal. 21 is going to be my goal every week for this team. I mean,
Yeah.
you see teams like
Sure.
Baltimore scoring 38 and Miami scoring 42, and like we aren't letting up, the score right now on the opposite side. But I can't imagine having to come back from that. Come
How many
back and
points did the
compete.
Dolphins have in that fourth quarter against Baltimore Sunday? I'm gonna look that up right now. How many points did they score in the fourth quarter of that game?
So they were down.
Right.
Were they down 21?
I believe so. They were down, looks like 35-14 late in the third quarter. They scored 28 points in the fourth quarter. I think Pittsburgh's offense has scored 30 the whole year, the first 2 weeks, I
That's
believe.
crazy.
Yeah, so you're right. The Steelers are playing blackjack. First to
Yeah,
21,
we
don't
don't.
go over. Yeah.
It's definitely a game of 21 for us. That I'm gonna just stick there and stay there and hope that we can get there and hope that we go beyond that. I want to be wrong. So man, I don't want to pick the Browns. I just can't do it. But first to 21 wins.
Yeah, the key will be shutting down or minimizing the run game because if they're on schedule, they're on
Yes.
rhythm, then the pass rush is going to struggle even more. They're going to work their boot game, they're going to work play action game. And so it's obvious to say it's always a challenge against the Browns, but how well you can stop the run, fit the run, that's going to be critical because their zone scheme is really soundly built. They've been doing it for years. They got guys who can do it. And so that's going to be a really good litmus test of this Pittsburgh front seven.
Yeah, and shout out to Miles Boykin. Awesome special teams play this week. And can't wait to see more of him. And of course, George Pickens. We're waiting for the big play from George. Hopefully, we
Definitely.
get some of that on Thursday.
The way they defended Boykin, just really quick, Belichick knows how good Boykin is because initially they had two jammers on top of Boykin at the line, and then Boykin beat him both the one rep, and he ended up pulling a jammer off and having him lined up almost as a second return man who would come in late and kind of shove Boykin out of bounds. And so Miles Boykin has been a fantastic gunner.
Yeah, special. He's an amazing special team, and like the speed that he has, like just
And the
love it.
hands, like the way
Yeah.
because the way that a gunner works is the way a receiver gets off press coverage with your hand use. And I think Boyk's been able to translate what he has learned as a receiver and really carry that over exceptionally well. Usually, like receivers and pass rushers do well on special teams because it's all about getting off of blocks. And those guys know how to get off of blocks because they're doing that against press. And of course, pass rushers are doing that against tackles. So those are usually the guys that can really become effective special teamers.
I just had a thought of. Boykins, remember how Darius Hayward Bay, we
Yeah.
didn't use him too much, but then like just
Yep.
amazing on a special teamsman for, a lifetime. I
And
loved
he
it.
was he had speed. That was the fastest guy. Like
Yeah.
they had so many. Whenever they raced, DHB wouldn't be allowed to race because they said he was going to win. So whenever
Yeah.
AB and I think Shazier and other guys would race, they would say, "You go on the sidelines, Darius Hayward Bay." So yeah, he was. I mean, he was a former first round pick that became a great special teamer. Just did his role, found a new path to carve out. Really cool career
Yes.
that he had.
Yes, and that's when I was just going through it. That's who popped in my head, Darius Hayward Bay. So,
Perfect.
shout out to him and Miles. Like I'm looking forward to some more spectacular plays on special teams. But I don't have like I said, I don't. 21 is it for me. But I do again want to thank you for coming on today. And again, for anybody that has not tapped in with Alex, please tell them where to find you on social media. The Steelers Depot, if you're not familiar, but go ahead and Alex, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, you can check us out on Steelers Depot. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Appreciate you having me on, D, and I'll be back anytime you want me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. We'll catch up after the game. Enjoy it as much as you can and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. You too.